Welcome to my new show. I am Bhavesh and I am hosting my first show named Worldwide. We are trying to get the coverage, comprehensive coverage of world affairs and our internal affairs of our country. And with this, our new segment we are starting with the first story of our new segment would be the inauguration of our new parliamentary building that would be happening on this 28th of May by the Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi. And before even this parliamentary building is being inaugurated, it has started to do its work. The opposition has already went on strike, and people say we do not have democracy. Even the parliamentary building is not open and people are on strike. So the opposition's main agenda over here for their strike is that the Prime Minister, who hails from the executive branch of our government, is going to inaugurate a legislative branch of our government building. So they want the President of India to do this honor of inaugurating the parliamentary building on this 28th of May. But many in the opposition also have raised the voice that even the President comes to the executive branch of the government. So the Speaker of the House currently, Shri Om Birla, should be the person, as he is the proper member of this legislative and mediates between the opposition and the party in the power. And this problem, they are citing that the Prime Minister is doing the inauguration for a parliamentary building and he is laying stone for this and inaugurating the new emblem for the parliamentary building. In past, the prime ministers of our country have done this. They have inaugurated libraries and canteens and halls, and even the chief ministers have laid stones for the buildings for their Vidhan Sabhas. And even the Congress leader, Ms. Sonia Gandhi, laid the foundation stone for the Vidhan Sabha of Chhattisgarh. The main problem here is that Prime Minister Modi would be getting most of the publicity for opening the new parliamentary building as the 2024 election nears, and the opposition does not want to give the publicity to the Prime Minister. And one thing with the Indian opposition is whenever they do not have a solid ground of argument or something like that, they would just go on strike. They would stop the process of the parliament, and they would just go on strike. They would not argue against it. They would just say that the center is being authoritative and they are dictating terms to them, but they would not provide a definite counter for their policy or their bill that has been presented in front of them. They would just go on strike. So it would be better in the new parliamentary building they would stop this striking and would preferably go and do their job and counter the policy if they do not like, and have a proper discussion rather than just closing the parliament for 10 days and 20 days and forcing the speaker to adjourn the meetings. And on the topic of the new parliamentary building, this evening the Home Minister of India, Amit Shahji, have took a press meeting and told the press caucus that they would be placing a Sengal, which is part of the South Indian tradition, in which when the king passes his throne to his successor, would provide this Sengal as the authority for ruling the nation. And this Sengal, which is not from the Chola era but was prepared before independence to serve as a mark that the power shift has occurred from the British Empire to the Indian government. And as you can see, this is the Sengal on the right side, is which would be kept at the new parliamentary building, and on the left you can see a procession in which the head priest is providing the Sengal to the new ruler of the Cholan dynasty. And the Sengal which would be provided, which would be kept near the speaker's chair, was commissioned for the purpose that the power to show and symbolize that the power change has occurred between between the British Empire and the Indian government. The Sengol is made up of silver and has been coated with gold. And on top of the Sengol sits Nandi, the vehicle of Lord Shiva. The Cholas were highly devoted to Lord Shiva, so there is a symbolism for that. And on this Sengol is written in the that it is our order as the follower of the god, the king, or the ruler, or the prime minister in this case, shall rule as the kings and as the gods rule in heaven for the prosperity of his people and his country. And as you can see, this is the Sengol, and the priest is giving the Sengol to then Viceroy, and for showing the purpose that it is now has to be being transferred to the new Prime Minister of India, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. This was done 15 minutes before. It is said that 15 minutes before the midnight speech that Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru said, our first Prime Minister. And this was to symbolize again the shift of power from from being under a colony of a monarchical society to a democratic society, democratic and republic society. And one thing that I seem a bit funny that in the UK Parliament and the parliaments that are under the Commonwealth have a similar type of structure. They have that scepter, and it is called mason, and that mason is like gada, which we say in Hindi, and it was for the protection of the Speaker of the House. It was visualed and had crown and all that. It was a mason to protect the Speaker from other members of the House. But in many circumstances, even the mason is the authoritative figure that the House is in session. In one instance, in the UK Parliament, a member who got angry with the discussion happening in the Parliament just took that mason and tried to run away with it to stop the proceeding of the Parliament, UK Parliament. So I do hope that our representatives do not do such a thing, like taking the Sengol and running away and trying to throw it at each other on minor discrepancies among themselves over the bills and whatnot. So let's hope that this symbol of our independence remains our symbol of independence and does not become a symbol of petty politics and starts being thrown here and there across the house. On to our next story. We have now Netflix, a popular streaming site. We all have been using it, and well, the shows are okay, but now they have proposed they have instated this in America, that people have to pay for sharing their passwords for $7.99. They have to pay extra if they want to share their password, and their basic plan starts at $8.99. So if it is implemented in India, it might be we might have to pay 139 rupees, as our basic plan starts at 149 rupees. So Netflix is trying to expand its market in India. So this step seems far-fetched, but let's see what happens. And there is also the talks between the US Senate and the president, that the opposite party is not budging on the demand for raising the debt ceiling, and they are even questioning the 1st of June deadline, saying that who has decided this deadline, and they are trying to even challenge this deadline. And both the parties are now trying to defame the other by blaming all the if anything happens, if really the deadline is crossed, they would generally blame the other party for the debt ceiling crash. And well, even India, as the new pension commission has been implemented for new employees, they have said that they are putting things in the stock markets. And stock markets, people generally in the many stock markets have portfolios that contain US stocks and all that. And if this debt ceiling does not get extended, these pension funds and others would also get affected. And maybe not directly in India, but yes, US, if US defaults, it would be a very bad thing for the whole economy. And for our next story, we have Russia. That has been going on a whole year has passed, nothing has come to conclusions. Russia has claimed that it has taken the whole control over the Bakhmut region in Ukraine, and well, Ukraine denies that it does not has happened, and it is still under control of Ukrainian forces. But there was a recent insurgency near the Russian border, and the Russian military and the Russian command is blaming Ukraine for this attack that happened in the border villages. And this there has been a new a new development, as there has been a statement released by the Russian military that 70 people have been killed in a recent strike over these people who tried to cause unrest in the Russian territory. And they are directly claiming that Ukraine has its hand in this border town attack, but Ukraine is still saying that it does not has anything to do with it, as US and other allies have made it very clear that US and other European Union weapons should not be used against Russia in the mainland, and should only be used for defensive purposes and not for offensive purposes. So there is that. And with all the talks of sanctions and all and that, there is still cooperation between Russia and US and other countries, as today cargo ship was launched from Kazakhstan, where the space base has been leased to Russia, and the Russian capsule took the supplies to the International Space Station. And well, it is good to know that they are still having talks between the diplomatic channels, and it has not gone dry. And on the other side, Russia has been pushing India for the coming FATF June meeting to stop the isolation of Russian Federation from becoming blacklisted in the FATF list. It has been pressuring India in the sectors of oil and weaponry, that if Russia gets blacklisted, it would be very difficult for India to get oil and get its military equipment serviced and get new orders that have been pending with Russia. So there is also that Russia is being pressuring India. And for our next news, we have in Australia, Indian Prime Minister is visiting Australia. It is his second day today in Australia, with a joint statement which he was giving with the Australian Prime Minister Albanese. He raised the problem of Khalistani radicals that has been growing in Australia quite a bit. They are vandalizing temples, they are harassing Indian diaspora, and even disrespecting the Indian flag. The Australian Prime Minister has assured the Indian Prime Minister quick steps would be taken to tackle it. Let's hope it happens. And that's all for today. Let's meet next day for the next news and what's the next happening. Till then, take care. Good night.